Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome into the OSG garage, and today we're going to work on, I think, part 3 of the folding trailer build. So since we last left, I was able to finish up some of the hinge work on the flip part of the trailer. I got the right bolts in there and all that spaced out. I did some cleanup work on it as well, where I had some tube ends were open and I put some caps on the end of them so the tube wasn't open. And I also got the first part of the e-trailer shipment, where I've got the Timbrin axle-less suspension and the 4-inch drop axles to give me about a 14-15 inch deck height. So later today we'll hopefully get to that. Got the bolts here. I've got some more components coming this afternoon. Hopefully the tires will be here this afternoon, and the hitch receiver will be here, or the ball hitch will be here as well too. So I'm going to finish off capping off that one side that I still have to open up. Then I'm going to take the thing, flip it upside down, and I'll lay out how I'm going to put together the tongue part of the trailer. It's just nice, even though some of these end caps are open, I could have probably miter cut the corners on this thing, and I wouldn't have to worry about filling a lot of stuff in. But it's a little harder to make the cuts in 2x3 tubing with 1/8, and I'm not really sure if it's any stronger per se. So capping the ends adds a little bit more strength to the end of the tube. Plus, it just makes it so you can't get moisture and wear on the inside of the frame of it and potentially have any rust issues. So it's pretty simple just to take some stock, cut it to the size you want, and I'm using a little magnet holder to keep in position, tack it, then we can finish weld it. Now, it's hard to keep the welds perfect on these butt ends, so eventually we have to grind off the weld and pretty up to make it at least presentable here, because this is something that's more cosmetic than it is structural. So let's take a look a little bit about how I put this hinge bolt on here. So basically, ordered up these stainless bolts from McMaster Carr, and eventually I'm going to have to switch this bolt out here to a nylock type bolt so it doesn't come off. But basically, we got a couple washers on here to space everything out, and then a bronze bushing on the inside here, a little bronze washer to give it some friction. But the idea is that when you tighten this thing down, that this space here on the shoulder bushing basically becomes an axle. So I want this space to be exactly with all the washers mocked up there, maybe with a little bit of clearance, and that is what I'm going to ride the hinge section on. So basically we've got some 1/2-inch washers on the outside. This is the washer that'll go here, and then we spaced out a few more of these 1/2-inch washers this way, so when the thing is all locked up, this small washer here hits on the shoulder, and I'm basically locking everything down to the shoulder this way. So this nut is locked down to the shoulder, so this just basically becomes an axle, and there's very little play on the inside of the whole thing. Now, one other thing I did on the hinge is, you notice here there's a gap between the two pieces when the hinges are full, and I've got some pressure pads here where I welded a 1/8 piece on here and on here. And the idea is to try and carry all of the stress of the trailer through these beams right here. So the pivot and these pads carry all the weight, not necessarily what's back here. And the other thing that allows me to do is I could grind this off, either change the thickness of them if it starts sagging or if it's not right. So got the frame flipped over on its back. This is going to be the front part where we're going to tow it from. And I will show you how I'm going to lay out the tongue of the trailer here so we can pull it. Now, I checked on the Harbor Freight trailer, and I checked also on the Kendon. And I want to make sure I put it out far enough so when you turn the car it doesn't back in or doesn't kind of jackknife on you. And the way that that worked out was I need to be approximately 3 feet and about 4 inches from the front of this trailer. That's exactly what the Harbor Freight is. So I want to use some 2-inch tubing here, and I'm going to split the middle, and I'm going to get a clamp for that other end. Put a clamp on this. I made some marks here so I know kind of that this thing is centered, but I will go back and clean all this up before I weld anything in. But what I'm going to weld in are some brackets, because this whole part is going to be removable. Because with this on, I won't be able to stand the thing up and still move it to where I need to move it. So this should be a little over 3 feet, and it is, which is good, from this part here. So that's going to be the main drag of it. And I'm going to have some of these outriggers here that I've already cut with a 30-inch bevel on the side. And they're going to land somewhere in there. Now these outriggers are 1.5 inch tubing, again 1.5 inch, 1/8 inch tubing, and that should be more than enough for what we need. And they're going to kind of go on right about there. And I want them to pull basically from the center of the trailer, so I'm just kind of spreading the load out for pulling. And they'll also have some brackets that go on here with quick release pins. So I'll have a bunch of brackets here, here, there, and there. And I'll work out the exact angles and proportions and everything later. But now I'm going to be able to show you my brackets from OSH Cut. So these brackets are basically going to go here like this, and they already have a 1/2 inch hole through them. So I'm going to get everything right, kind of clamp it up on this and this on the main stringer once everything is centered up. And then we'll go ahead, tack these guys in, and then come back and weld them up. And this should be pretty good. And the idea is that this whole thing with 6 pins will basically just come off, so when this thing is tipped up, it's not too high. So that's where these brackets are going to go. So using these brackets that I got along with all the OSH Cut stuff, they just really fit great. And I designed them to go right over the 2x3 beams here. Slot in next to this beam for the 2x2 beam that I have clamped in place, and we'll go ahead and tack it in. We'll go through later and spot the holes and drill everything through, but you can see how well these brackets just fit great. I mean, everything just worked so well. So I'm just double checking again the measurement to make sure I'm centered on each piece here. So I've split the difference there, so I'm dead nuts in the center. And go ahead and put our tacks in. Now you can still see here too, I tried putting some paper in there to make up for the paint thickness. I'm not sure that it was really the best way to go with that, but later I kind of clamped everything together and I got rid of that space. But I tried something. We'll see how it goes after it's painted. I'm worried that we might scratch the paint, but so far everything's lining up pretty good for us. All right, so the first two are all welded up here in the back. Not too shabby of a job, I think, if I do say so myself. And now we're going to move on to the front and finish weld those two. All right, so one other thing I'm doing when I finish weld these things, I'm just keeping this piece in here and clamping it up, just so that we can make sure we draw some of the heat out there and this thing doesn't kind of warp around on me while I'm finished welding it. So, real quick about OSH Cut. So this is a 1/2 inch piece of round stock, and it's pretty much right on a 1/2 inch. So not only are these holes pretty close, but all I did was put both of these down onto this 2x3, and look at the alignment of those two holes with that pin. That's outstanding. I didn't line them up or anything when I welded them. I just basically put them down on each side. So the cut here to the center line of the holes on both of them was literally, for all intents and purposes for this trailer, perfect. OSH Cut. Highly recommend them. Link down below. So what we have here is called a spotting punch. Basically, it's the same OD as the hole I'm putting it into, or just barely a little bit different size, and it has a center mark right there. So the idea is you can spot the center of the hole very accurately, so you can go ahead and drill your holes exactly in the position that you want it. So there's the mark from the spotting punch right there. And then what we'll do is we'll pick it up with a regular punch and then go drill it on the drill press with a 1/2 inch drill. So I'm going to start out with a smaller drill first and then step up. So we'll start with a 1/4 inch drill. We'll drill all the holes with that first. So I'm going to step up to the 1/2 inch drill now, first. I have to put an outrigger on for the other side because it's pretty far down, so make sure I get that in there if I can. Helps if the drill's tight. Alright, so here's going to be kind of the test. I know this pin fit in there before, so let's see if it fits now or not. Nice. So that lines up somewhat. It's not the most perfect lineup in the world, and I'll have to probably either dust the pin down, but if it just slips that well, we're probably... That dowel pin goes in nicely like that all day. Good job, guys. That's a good lineup. That's a very good. Alright, so stringers. So now that we got that one down in the center, I'm going to have 2 more pieces here, like I said, on the side. So I've kind of been sitting this thing about where I want it to be, and I've got the angle here kind of buzzed where I want it to be. Nice little fit there. We'll get that kind of good. You can barely see any light through there. Should be good. Now let's talk about how we're going to do the same thing with the pins like we did over there in the centerpiece, but we're going to go a little smaller here. I'm probably going to use 3/8 pins because this is an 1.5 inch square tube. So rather than go out and get a whole bunch of angle iron, because I've got so much of this other stuff, I'm basically going to take pieces of the 1/2-inch tube or the 1.5-inch square tube, cut them, 2 cuts, and turn them into brackets like this. Bada boom, bada boom. Just like that. And when it come time, since I don't have starter holes in there, and I don't have them as accurate as I had the other ones, what I'm probably going to do is get everything kind of in place, line it up, put just a few small tack welds in here, and drill everything through at once so everything lines up with a 3/8 drill. Then all I have to do is break the welds and we should be in good shape. I think that's what I'm going to do. So let's finish cutting the rest of these brackets. Not sure that I like this because I'm missing some pieces here and here to kind of attach. Maybe I should have these things be a little longer. Can't do that. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make these brackets a little bit longer here. Ooh, that might almost be too big. But this way, I think maybe if I cut it here and here. Let's cut it down the center here to make our 2 brackets. Alright, let's take a look. All in all, not so bad. I think we'll leave this and we'll just trim this way and trim this one this way. And then we can put the hole right there. I think that'll be okay. Alright, so we're going to go 3/8 of an inch, and I am just going to go right from the get-go 3/8 straight in. I think I can pick up that hole relatively accurately. The other side here. Let's hope those tack welds hold. I know this is pretty level because both of these 1, 2, 3 blocks are pretty good there, except for one small problem. I got this back, which is going to mess everything up. Nope, still pretty good. Okay, here we go. Wish me luck. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here and cut the tack welds off, pin everything together, put it in place, and then we'll weld the brackets down to the frame, and we'll get this thing in place. So everything's all dry fit up. I've got some 3/8 pins. These aren't the actual pins we're going to use, but at least it'll get it all going. And I think I shouldn't have much grinding to do on this. There's just a little overlap on this. I think I'm just going to tack it in place and then grind it off. So we're going to tack this, tack that side, come up front and tack that in place, and then we'll come back and we'll do some grinding on these the front pieces here to cut these little lips off on there. I think that'll be just fine because that looks like pretty centered in there. And the pins move nice. I only have to spend another hour and a half to do the other side. So I think that's going to be it for this. I got the other piece in here on the other side. Everything's all welded in. The brackets are done. This is in. I just have to finish a few of the welds here. But otherwise, everything is pretty much done on that one. So we're going to call it for this episode. I think we're going to go to a part 4 for the axles and the tires, okay? So for tonight, that's it from me at the OSG Garage. Remember to hit like, hit subscribe if you're already not. And you can find us on Instagram at OSG_garage and on Facebook at OSG Garage. That's going to be it for tonight. Hey, if you're picking up this and you haven't seen the first couple parts too, look up either this way or this way, and I'll have a link to one of the other parts. Okay. Good night.